Welcome back to the deep dive. It's still Sunday morning for us here, just reflecting after Pastor Florin's message at Agape Community Church.
Yeah, really insightful again.
He really dove into that classic image of Jesus as the shepherd from John chapter 10, verses 1 through 21.
Such a rich passage.
Totally. And for this deep dive, we really want to explore what it means to follow Jesus, not just as a listener, but as an apprentice.
Right, moving beyond just hearing the words.
Exactly. To actually practicing his way
Hmm.
day to day. And that feels like such a huge challenge, especially, I think, for younger people now.
Oh, absolutely.
You're just bombarded, right? So many choices, so many voices telling you what to do, what path leads to happiness or whatever.
It's overwhelming. How do you find guidance that's actually, authentic?
Yeah, how do you cut through the noise, distinguish the real thing from just another distraction?
Well, that's pretty much what we want to unpack. Because Pastor Florin's sermon, it had some really practical, actionable stuff in there. We're going to look at how Jesus, as the shepherd, really informs our daily lives, our decisions, the why it matters for you right now.
Okay, let's do it. So Pastor Florin started with Jesus as the gate in John 10. Now, that idea, the gates, it can sound kind of restrictive, can it?
It really can. Yeah. Exclusive often sounds negative to us today.
Right, like it's boxing you in.
But the way the sermon framed it, drawing from John 10, verse 7 to 9, it wasn't about restriction. It was more about clarity, protection, even.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about it if you're lost in a thick forest, you don't want 100 confusing paths, do you?
No, definitely not.
You want one clear trail, one you know is safe and leads somewhere good. Jesus as the gate. It means he's the one way to truly connect with God. The Most High God, as Pastor Florin put it.
So his teachings, his way of life, that's the real gate.
That's the true gate, yeah.
Yeah.
Compared to what the sermon called false gates or counterfeit ways. I mean, the scripture's pretty direct. Anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber.
Wow, okay. Strong words.
And Jesus himself says, all who have come before me are thieves and robbers. Now, it's important, Pastor Florin pointed this out, this isn't dissing the Old Testament prophets or anything.
Right.
It's aimed at those, back then, who were falsely claiming to be messiahs, leading people down dangerous paths. It's about spotting the frauds.
That really clicks thinking about today, all the self-aggrandizing gospels out there, every influencer, every guru.
Everyone's got the answer.
Yeah. And it feels like this anything goes thing just leaves you feeling more lost, ironically.
Exactly. So seeing the gate not as restrictive, but as protective,
Right.
grounding. It offers this single entry point away from all the misleading stuff.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. It's less about keeping people out and more about guiding people in safely.
Precisely. And the sermon stressed the benefits of going through this gate. It wasn't just about avoiding the bad.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, salvation. Jesus says it straight up. Whoever enters through me will be saved. And that's not just, pie in the sky when you die.
Right.
It's rescue now from the chaos, the emptiness of trying to figure it all out alone. Rescue from paths that just lead to dead ends right here.
Okay, salvation now. What else?
Second, contentment. The passage says, they will come in and go out and find pasture.
That sounds peaceful, like Psalm 23.
Exactly. That feeling of security, being provided for, belonging. Instead of constantly chasing the next thing, feeling like something's missing.
Yeah, that anxiety.
Entering through this gate offers a kind of settledness, knowing you're looked after.
Okay, salvation, contentment.
And third, real abundance. Jesus says, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full.
To the full, not just scraping by.
Right. And this connects back to John 3.1 sin. The whole picture is that following Jesus isn't about being stifled or having less life. It's the opposite.
So it's liberating.
Profoundly liberating.
Yeah.
A fullness of life that's way deeper than just temporary pleasures or having stuff. It's life as it was meant to be.
Wow. So, okay, this idea of fullness through the narrow gate, it completely flips that fear of missing out, doesn't it?
It really does. It suggests the narrow path isn't about less freedom. It's about freedom to live fully, without the constant searching and the dead ends.
That's a huge shift in perspective.
Yeah.
True liberation.
And it's exactly what so many people, especially young people, are looking for, right? That clarity, contentment, abundance. They just might be looking in the wrong places.
Yeah. Okay, so if Jesus is the gate, the way in, who's leading us once we're through, what kind of leader is he? Because that's where the trust comes in, right?
Definitely. And that leads right into the next part. Jesus as the good shepherd.
Right. What makes him good? what are those characteristics that make him trustworthy enough to follow, to apprentice under?
Well, the sermon highlighted a few key things that are honestly pretty countercultural. First, he's authentic.
Authentic, how so?
John 10, verses 2 to 4 and 8. Unlike, trends that change or leaders who say one thing and do another, Jesus is consistent, true to himself.
Not flaky or unpredictable.
Exactly. Not like capricious ancient gods or even flawed human leaders we see all the time. His character is the guide. Reliable, dependable. What you see is what you get.
That's huge in itself. Trustworthy.
Huge. Second, he's profoundly good and sacrificial. This is radical, John 10:13. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep.
Okay, yeah, that's different.
Totally flips the script.
Yeah.
False gods often demanded sacrifice from people. Jesus sacrifices himself for us.
Out of love.
Out of caring, loving concern. The total opposite of the hired hand who bolts when danger appears because, well, he doesn't really care about the sheep.
He's just doing a job.
Right. So this self-giving love completely redefines leadership. It's about giving, not taking.
That really stands out compared to leadership today, which often seems focused on personal gain or power. How does that self-giving aspect change how we should view leadership? It's hard to even trust that sometimes.
It is hard because we're so used to looking for the catch, right? The hidden motive.
Yeah, what's in it for them?
But the shepherd's sacrifice isn't like that. It's unconditional. And third, he's sovereign. He connects heaven and earth. John 10:14-18.
What does that mean, sovereign?
He has this unique connection with God the Father, just as the Father knows me and I know the Father. And he has divine authority. He says, no one takes my life from me, but I lay it down of my own accord.
So he's in control, even in sacrifice.
Exactly. That deep knowledge of his sheep, combined with ultimate authority, it builds incredible trust, like family.
Okay. Authentic, sacrificial, sovereign.
And one more. He's inclusive. John 10:117. Now, we talked about the gate being exclusive for salvation, right?
Yeah, the one way in.
But the shepherd's love is expansive. Jesus says, I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also.
So he wants everyone.
He wants unity, one flock. It's this amazing tension, the one clear path in, but a love that reaches out to absolutely everyone, no matter their background.
That balance is fascinating. The exclusive gate, but the inclusive shepherd. It really highlights why these qualities matter so much today. In a world where trust is shaky, leaders can be inconsistent. Having a guide who is authentic, self-giving, sovereign, and inclusive, that's an anchor.
A solid foundation.
It makes you actually want to follow, to learn, to be an apprentice.
Which brings up that big question, right? If leadership is often self-serving, asking us to sacrifice, what does it mean to apprentice under a shepherd who flips that completely?
Yeah.
Who gives his life for you?
Yeah, it changes everything, how you see yourself, your purpose.
Your whole sense of belonging.
So practically then, what does this look like? Pastor Florin gave those actions of love, the ways to respond. This feels like the core of apprenticeship, moving from just understanding it to actually doing it.
Yes, absolutely. That application part, follow the path. Yes, you can. It hammered home that point again. The right way might be narrow, like a gate, but it's presented as freeing, life-giving, leading to that abundance and peace we talked about. Not restriction, but liberation.
Okay, and he gave 3 specific actions. I liked how concrete they were. First, let it click.
Yeah.
What does that really mean for someone maybe exploring faith?
Let it click.
Uh-huh.
And it's like that aha moment,
Okay.
an awakening.
Yeah.
That internal switch flips. You realize, okay, I need to change direction. I need to try God's way. It's about really seeing the evidence, maybe for the first time, recognizing the sacrifice God made for you, which is so different from what other systems demand.
So it's more than just agreeing intellectually.
Much more. It's emotional, spiritual resonance. It moves you to want to take a step, to accept his words, let them sink in. It's deciding, okay, this is the master I want to learn from, the start of apprenticeship.
That moment is powerful. But how does it become more than just a feeling? Because feelings fade, right? Then he said, walk through the gate. He used analogies like going into a movie or through airport security.
Right, and that's the key.
Yeah.
Letting it click is the spark, but walking through the gate is the deliberate action that keeps it going.
Okay, making it real.
Yeah, like Pastor Florin said, you can't just sneak in to the movies or bypass TSA. There's a specific way in.
There are rules, procedures.
Coming into the kingdom of God is the same way. Jesus is the gate. Trying to find a loophole or another way, that's counterfeit, according to this passage.
So the authentic path is Jesus, his way.
His teachings, his way of life. That's the challenge. Are you trying to find shortcuts, or are you committing to walk through his specific way? Even when it's maybe not the easiest way, it's a daily choice.
Choosing his path over all the other tempting ones.
Okay.
And the third action feels like the most crucial for the day-to-day apprenticeship, especially with all the noise out there. Learn to hear his voice.
Yes, this is huge.
How do we actually do that amidst emails, social media, everyone's opinions, the constant chatter in our own heads?
This is really central, isn't it? Being an apprentice means practicing listening to the master's voice. And the sermon gave a really important warning here.
Which was?
Be careful just relying on, oh, I have peace about it.
Why is that?
Because our feelings can be super misleading, right? Easily influenced. Instead, the advice was to practice silence rather than saying many words.
Quieting the noise, both outside and inside.
Exactly. And that's where something like Lectio Divina comes in. Now, don't let the Latin name scare you off.
Okay, yeah, sounds kind of churchy.
It can sound that way, but it's not really about jargon. It's just a structured way, a sacred pathway for deep listening to Scripture. Not just reading for info, but really engaging with God through it.
Okay, how does it work? Is it complicated?
Not at all, actually. It's pretty simple, just 4 or 5 steps. First, you prepare and invite. Just take a moment, quiet yourself down, find a calm spot, and consciously ask God to speak to you through the passage you're about to read, setting the stage.
Got it. Prepare. Then
you read. Just read the passage slowly, maybe even out loud. Don't analyze yet. Just hear the words.
Okay, read.
Next, meditate. You read it again, slowly. But this time, you let a word or a short phrase kind of jump out at you, something that grabs your attention.
And just focus on that.
Yeah, linger on it. Turn it over in your mind. Ask yourself, why this word? What's it saying to me right now? This is where it's personal.
Okay. Meditate on a word or phrase. What's next?
Then you respond. Let that meditation lead you into talking to God. It might be prayer, thanksgiving, maybe admitting something, asking for help. Whatever feels natural based on what you meditated on. It's a conversation.
Respond. Okay.
And finally, rest and contemplate. Just let go of your own words. Be still. Rest in God's presence. Be open to anything else the Spirit might bring to mind. It's just being with God.
Prepare, read, meditate, respond, rest.
Pretty much. And the key thing here, it's not just about understanding stuff intellectually. It's about building a habit, a practice of listening.
Like training your ear.
Exactly. That's apprenticeship. Right. Learning by doing, over and over, until hearing the shepherd's voice feels more natural. That's how you find clarity when everything else is shouting.
Okay. Wow. So bringing this all together, following Jesus isn't just like believing a list of things. It's a hands-on apprenticeship. Learning to see his way as the true path, the gate, choosing to walk through it, and then actively practicing listening for his voice in the middle of everything else. And the promise isn't just, getting saved eventually, but finding real contentment, real abundance, real guidance now, which feels like exactly what people are searching for.
Absolutely. It addresses that deep need for meaning and direction in a really transformative way.
So the final thought then.
Yeah, maybe just this. If Jesus really is this authentic, sacrificing shepherd whose voice leads to real life, what's one specific practical step you could take this week? Just one small thing. To practice hearing his voice a bit more clearly. To consciously choose to walk through his gate in some tangible way.
Maybe trying that Lectio Divina for just 5 minutes.
Could be. Or maybe it's facing one decision differently this week, choosing his way instead of the easier way. Just something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for unpacking that.
Good conversation.